Today we're gonna look at some phthalo green mixes. What up, Liron here. Thank you for joining me in another video. And today, what I want us to do is take phthalo green and just look at some mixes, try and mixing it mainly with yellows and reds. This is a color I barely use, and I keep seeing in the comments you tell me that you can mix it with this, create that. You can mix it. I really love to mix it with this specific color. And I thought, why not try it out and see for myself if I like it or not. And so my goal here is to just become a little more familiar with it and maybe feel more comfortable using it and knowing what it will actually produce, okay? So I really hope you will enjoy this one. I'm gonna change the angle and we'll get started. Okay, so let's get started, and just the first thing I want to do is put a bit of the pure phthalo green, and these are all Schmincke. So I'm just mixing some pure green. I'll show you what it looks like, and actually let me zoom in a bit so you can better see this. So we're gonna look at it in its pure form, and this is really, again, me trying to figure this out as well, and just playing around with it. I want this to be like you accompanying me on this session, and not necessarily something that you will learn, maybe something practical from, or me just teaching you something. It's just for my own fun. So I'm trying to get it to be really dark, and it seems like this is the darkest I can get with just one single layer. So what I'm gonna do now is just start looking at different mixes, and we're gonna start with the Chromium Yellow Hue. I wasn't sure whether I should write down the actual full names of the colors, simply because I don't really care about the specific color here. I'm more interested in whether it's a yellow and or a red, and whether it's cool or warm. So basically we have here a warm yellow, not so much an orange, but just kind of similar to the new gamboge. And I want to mix it up with the green and just see what it looks like. So if we're using a bit more yellow here, so you can see this is really interesting. I never tried to actually go this far and just do different mixes of it, but it just cools it down, I think, in a very beautiful kind of lemony way. Now I'm on purpose making the Chromium Yellow a little more dominant here, right in the middle, because I want you to see the difference. And now I'm just gonna feed it with a bit more of the phthalo green. So you can see that here, I really love the way this looks, because the phthalo green on its own is way too cool for my taste, and perhaps even artificial, but on the very first swatch here I learned how beautiful it can be, and I'll definitely use this mix. It's just very interesting, I find. So let's next try out some lemon yellow. And the lemon yellow I use, I don't remember again the exact color, but this one is Schmincke as well. So I'm just gonna decontaminate it a bit, and it's already rather cool. So we're gonna get a very different result from the previous one. It actually looks a bit like the cool version here. So first let's do some of the lemon yellow all by itself, just so that you can see what it looks like. I'm using it almost pure. By the way, sorry about the changing light conditions. The light here is very fickle. So now I'm gonna add a bit of the phthalo blue to it, and this really turns into a bright green that kind of reminds me of the May green, I guess, that I really like. So very interesting. I think it could be a very cool idea to just paint a lemon with these colors, which makes sense because of the lemon yellow. But anyway, it still warms it up a bit, or maybe even considerably, relating to compared to the initial version we looked at. So just a very beautiful. I love that the way this looks. I think is really beautiful. Let's try out the yellow ochre now, and I do this because I saw this in a comment a while back. I was recommended to try this with the yellow ochre. So first I'm gonna grab a bit of the yellow ochre here. Let me show you. And these are all again Schmincke. I want to do another one with the phthalo blue, and for this one I'll use my Daniel Smith palette. I simply don't have a phthalo blue. Yeah, I simply don't have a phthalo blue of Schmincke, so I may get one as well. In any case, now I'm putting in that yellow ochre, And I don't remember as for the transparency of it. I believe it's, I don't want to say just, yeah, it's everything in the Schmincke brochure, and I'm not really sure what the properties are in terms of transparency. But in any case, I'm adding now the Phthalo Green, and this is beautiful, really. I think if you're doing the Velasquez palette with the yellow ochre and burnt sienna and maybe French ultramarine or something like this, the Phthalo Green could be a very nice addition to get better greens, because the combination of what was it? The combination of French ultramarine and yellow ochre create a very muted and dead green from what I recall, and this is just fantastic. I think I'll actually be using the Velasquez palette in conjunction with the Phthalo Green. I actually learned a lot. I wasn't expecting it to be this nice, the result. Honestly, I thought it would just be lots of grays or boring colors. I never really considered what the result's gonna be like. So next we have a Cadmium Red. This one is a Cadmium Red Hue, and it's what you see here. Very strong, very warm, and very bright. So I'm gonna put it here. And this one really reminds me of the Daniel Smith Spiral Scarlet, if you want a comparison. So I'm just showing you what it looks like. Now we're gonna put in a green, and the result is gonna be interesting. It's gonna gray out on us because these are opposites. But I did want to explore some reds as well, so you can see this here. Let's make it a little darker. I think the gist of it is pretty clear. How this mutes them, so you can achieve quite a significant level of darkness with this. It seems like both of them are fairly dominant, the red and the green. It's pretty transparent, but still the green here it's pretty strong. So in any case, this is what you get from this, and this is the first kind of gray we get, which makes sense. Next up, I want to look at Magenta, and I think this one will create an even more perfect gray, sorry, because with this one, the Magenta, I think I used a bit of Magenta and Viridian in the past, and it led to a pretty gray result. So let's take a look here. These are, I believe, more perfect opposites on the color wheel, though I'm not sure. So I'm gonna add a bit of the green. And we actually get a nice kind of purple. It's like it veers more towards the blue and it creates a purple. That's very interesting. I wasn't expecting this, so I guess I'll just have a video full of surprises. So yeah, it's kind of it even leads to some blue here, depending on which one is the dominant. So this is really interesting. Let me try and neutralize it a bit more. I'm just playing around with the ratio, so I'm adding a bit more Magenta and to the mix, and then I'm taking a bit of the Phthalo Green, sorry, and I don't know, it's just not, it doesn't turn out really gray, so that's really interesting. We basically get a blue. And finally, with the burnt sienna, I don't know what to expect with this one, so we'll just have to test it out. Schmincke's burnt sienna is pretty red, so it could gray out significantly. So this will be interesting just to see what it's going to be like. So let's check it out. And this is the burnt sienna. I'm going to add a bit of the Phthalo Green. So it creates a very interesting sort of a sap green, I would guess, or maybe a more muted sap green. Honestly, it's full of surprises. I was not expecting it to go that way. And so I deliberately did not prepare for this video because I wanted to see what it's gonna be like live with you, as this is experimentation for me. And I wasn't expecting the results to be so interesting and just honestly so beautiful. Let's look at this here. So yeah, this is quite amazing. Wasn't expecting this. So I think what I'll do now is just kind of have fun with one of the combinations and just really quickly paint this banana here. What could be nice to use, I'm not sure, maybe just the lemon yellow. I kind of like all of the combinations, so I don't know, I'll just wing it and we'll see what happens. I honestly have no idea what I'm gonna do. So let's actually start with some, I really like the way the yellow ochre looks, so let's work with some of that here. And this is just me having fun. I just thought it would be nice to wrap this up with kind of a quick just painting. So I think what I'll do, I'll just focus on the values. So I'm gonna use some of the yellow, lemon yellow actually, just for the top here, connect it with the yellow ochre. Maybe get it to be a little stronger, a little purer, like this. And down here below, I'm gonna go back to some of the yellow ochre, but I want to add some of the green to it. So I'm just gonna add some green like this. And just having fun with it. I have no idea what it's gonna look like in the end. A bit more of the yellow ochre right here. Perhaps now we'll take some of the burnt sienna into the mixture and just add some of that here. And I think I'll switch to the chromium yellow right around here. Chromium yellow, grab some of that. Maybe a bit purer. And kind of like this. And now we basically have a big, interesting mix. I'm gonna maybe use a bit of the more gray for the shadow. So I'm adding a bit of the cadmium red. And a bit of the green here. Sorry you can't see the mixing. And a bit more of the two. And just kind of lay down the shadow here. And maybe just to break it off a bit, I'm gonna blend some of the shadow's edges here. Like this. And I'm gonna let it just dry for a few moments, and then I'm gonna add a second layer, just bringing out the shadows and lights. Okay, so the paint is dry and I just want to get some more definition of the shadows. And for that I'm gonna use the mix of the Phthalo Green together with the Magenta, okay? Just because I think it'll be a nice variety, and if it blues everything out a little bit, I'm actually happy with that. So I want to use not too dark of a color, and assuming light comes just plainly from the top, I'll be really minimalistic here. I don't want to overcomplicate this. So just kind of using that mixture. I'll add a bit more magenta to it to add some more interest. Maybe a little pure magenta deep in the shadow. And near the bottom, I'll use a bit more of the, there's a bit of dark areas here as well. I'm just going to use a bit more of the green, because this is what actually gets it to look a little bluer. So I'm just going to try it out like this. And you see I wasn't really as accurate as I could have been, but that's fine. And I just want to blend some of that, some of the edges. Especially near the edge is where I want to blend the most, because that's the farther away from the banana itself. And maybe just a touch of wet and wet. This can really help sometimes define the edges. So you want to have the paint really thick, and then you can just go around the edge here. And this probably doesn't come through as well through the camera, but just put a bit of a darker area in between the border there. And I'm gonna keep this one rather simple. I think this is a nice result. Let me zoom out a bit so that you can see everything together. So here we have it all of the experimentation I did today. We have the Phthalo Green in its pure form, and then all of the mixes, starting from the chromium yellow, like a warm yellow, a cool yellow, the yellow ochre, red, cool red, and finally the burnt sienna. Very interesting, and the final kind of quick painting of a banana. I really enjoyed this. I wasn't expecting it to be so so cool. Here is just some of the ones I used. Once again, this is the, it's a bit hard probably to see. This is the Phthalo Green. We have here the chromium yellow, that's the warm yellow, the cool yellow. We have the warm red, the cool red, yellow ochre, burnt sienna. And this is it. These are all the colors I used for this one, and all of the mixing wells. So just a very interesting experimentation. I'm really fascinated with this one and this one and this one and this one, and probably also the lemony combination, just for getting the brightest, lightest lights. So it could be really interesting, and I'll try and use this one a little more extensively in the near future. Oops, I smeared it. And we'll update you on the results. I really hoped with this experimentation to at least become a little more familiar with the phthalo blue, and I mark it as a success. So let's change the angle and wrap up this video. So I want to thank you again for joining me in this video. Again, the final results of what all of these combos look like. I have to say again, my goal with this was to just become more familiar and feel more comfortable using Phthalo Green, but it exceeded my expectations, really. I'm really pleased with how it turned out, and I really mark this one as a success because not only I became more comfortable with it, I'm actually curious to go outside and try some of these combinations, and it's just great knowing that I have a way of using this mostly in, I think, landscapes, because the browns and the kind of greens and yellows that this makes up is just, I think, beautiful. And I had a feeling something interesting will happen, but you discovered it together with me, so I think that's a pretty cool moment there. And yeah, this is it. Again, thank you so much for watching this video. I really hope you enjoyed this one. Don't forget to check out my podcast. I actually recorded an episode I think you will really like. So there's currently 5 episodes, and I already have 2 more prepared, talking about many interesting things in the art sphere. So I think you'll really enjoy those. Check it out. I'll put a link in the description box below. Again, really hope you enjoyed this one. Also subscribe here on YouTube if you still haven't. Follow me on Instagram and Snapchat. I haven't updated for a few days because my phone is out. It's dead, my iPhone. So I'm actually getting a new one probably today. And yeah, this is it. Love you. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you again in another video really soon.